There we go. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I am Anya Homer, so that's an Anya, and pretty much like on your bike or good Anya, without the mic, preferably if we're speaking in person, although some people do throw it in. And I am the Baby Reflux Lady. And tonight I'm going to be sharing with you, for the first time ever, being blatantly honest with parents about why it's dangerous to believe that baby reflux is normal. Now, obviously, you're here mostly because something in your gut is already telling you that your baby's reflux and struggles are not normal. And so, I'm here to shed some light on that. Back in November last year, I decided that I wasn't being as honest as I wanted to be. I have a mission to eradicate baby reflux as something that destroys families because it almost destroyed mine. And I have some very good friends who even have divorce due to the stress and strain that unresolved reflux has brought into their marriage, literally torn families apart. I have friends, I have met sort of strangers through Facebook forums and that where this has happened. And it really shouldn't be this way. Reflux is something that we can address and we can support. I was afraid, being blatantly honest with you, last year about how my honesty would be received. And I have said this in a few emails over the last few days. I said it briefly this evening. It does scare me, to be honest, because I'm a people pleaser and I love to be loved, as we all do. And I've always been worried that the truths I know about reflux and why it is so important for me to be doing what I do really that kind of held me back because I was worried that people wouldn't like me. So I want to be very, very honest with you straight up right now. This is an educational webinar. I'm going to be talking about why it's dangerous to believe that baby reflux is normal. This is not designed to scare you. This is all based on evidence. And this is the information I wished I had access to 8 years ago and 6 years ago when I was going through my hell of reflux. I'll go on to my story in a little bit, but firstly, a little bit of housekeeping. I have notes because I've got a lot to get through tonight. If I'm speaking too fast, please use the comments. I will try and look at them as they flick around. I will do my best. If you need me to slow down, you can't use hands and stuff like that, but you can use icons in the chat if you so wish. I don't have a comments box, so everything's going to be, sorry, I don't have a questions box. Everything's going to be in the chat box tonight. I have everybody on mute intentionally just because there may or may not be children in the background. And this really is a webinar where I am providing a lot of education. If we have time at the end, I will wait for a few questions. But yeah, so engagement is one of my favorite things. Is the reason I do live things is because I actually love the engagement and I love to know your points of view, whether you agree, whether you disagree, whether you think everything I'm saying is ridiculous, or whether you kind of agree and you knew somewhere in your gut that this was happening. Tash, I'm really sorry. I tried on the last thing I did. I'm not able to turn off the doorbell sound. That's in Zoom settings. Unfortunately, I can't turn it off. Really, really sorry about that. So if you do have engagement, like if you do want chat, pop them in the chat box. I will try, as I said, to keep an eye on it. If you want to share that you're here, that you're watching this webinar, whether it's a load of crap or whether it's absolutely amazing and eye-opening, if you want to share screenshots on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, please, please, please be my guest and do. What I would ask is that you just tag me in them. On Instagram, I am Baby Reflux Lady, and on, I don't know if you can see that with the subtitles, I am Anya Homer, the Baby Reflux Lady, or at the Baby Reflux Lady on Facebook. I am also on Twitter. Don't use it a lot, but I am there, and Baby Reflux Lady without the as well over there. So please feel free to take screenshots and let me know what you think of this. I'm absolutely, I'm really grateful for your time here this evening. So I want to get through the material rather than wasting time. And as I have said, I'm going to reiterate again, I am not here to prey on vulnerable people. I am here to provide education based on what I didn't have and what I've learned over the last 8 years. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about 3 reasons why it is dangerous to say that baby reflux is normal. Okay. Firstly, my aim is to convince you that you are completely sane in constantly asking questions and seeking answers for your child. I want you to leave this session completely reassured that this isn't in your head and it's not your fault. And I want you to cement that belief that you're right to keep fighting for answers. And then before we finish, I'm going to talk to you about some of the ways that me, as the baby reflux lady and other certified baby reflux ladies, can help you get those answers faster than anybody else. So before I do that, I will introduce myself quickly. First of all, I'd love to know, are many of you on my mailing list? Do you know much about me? Or kind of was this the first thing you've ever seen? And oh, that was a bit interesting. I'll sign up. Let me know in the chat box. Is this your first interaction with you? Do you know my story in any way, shape, or form? Can I have a drink of water? Do excuse me. So, as I said, my name is Anya, and 8 years ago, last week, I was only days into motherhood, and I never felt so low. Oh, that's great, Laura. Faye, you know me, darling. Faye's one of becoming a certified baby reflux lady. Hope I'm allowed to share that, Faye. You're amazing. Laura read my book, researching Claire to first interaction. Found me this week. Solly Hill baby massage found me this week. Wish you'd found me sooner. 2.5 years old boy. Laura, medical options for reflux. Yeah. Okay. So 8 years ago, I was days into my. Oh, Chloe. Sorry, Chloe's just said she's a diehard fan since her little one arrived 10 weeks ago, and you've got the book. Oh, and Louise listened to the webinar and you really loved it. Well, okay, I'm going to crack on my story, bit of my story. 8 years ago, I was days into motherhood, and I really never felt so low, so tired, so helpless, and so utterly useless. I believed I just made the biggest and irreversible mistake of my life in having a baby, because she screamed every single night from 6 p.m. until 2 a.m. and then again from 4 a.m. till 6 a.m. until we got up at 6 or at 6 or 7 a.m. Apparently, my daughter was perfect. She had regained her birth weight within 10 days. But yet my boobs felt like they were being grated every 2 hours, and I literally couldn't put her down even to have a wee. Again, apparently everything was normal. My amazing husband went back to work within the 2 weeks, and the impact that our kids' reflux had on his sleep, his work, his performance, his mental health is another webinar session in its own right. I do not forget about dads. Dads suffer differently to mums, but they do suffer as well. But when he went back to work, the days got longer and the nights got darker. I dreaded the loneliness of nighttime, because I knew that my husband had to sleep. Just want to make sure everybody's muted. He had to sleep in order to drive to work safely, to be able to work and be productive at work. And I knew that I'd be walking the house with Sunflower for hours on end. Then as soon as she would stop crying, if I sat down or stopped moving, she would scream again. And she, oh my goodness, I love her to bits. And I loved her at the time. And what was really strong for me was that dichotomy of love and hate, the same thing. Like, I was completely besotted by her and absolutely hating this screaming, this lack of sleep. It was just unbelievable. And above all, anything else, I just couldn't bear to hear my little girl cry. Fast forward months of being told that her behavior was normal, that she was stubborn. I was told that by a health visitor when she was 6 weeks old, that I was making a rod for my own back by carrying her all the time. We got a diagnosis of silent reflux at 5.5 months old, for which the answer was then, it's okay, it's normal, she's fine, it will go away. And that was actually a phone call from a GP who didn't even want to speak to me. I could sense didn't want to spend any time on the phone, didn't even get us in for a consultation, which is, I guess that's similar to a lot of the stories you guys have in terms of the contact from GPs and getting a diagnosis or an identification or any help of what might be going on. I'd love to know your experiences on that. Anyway, Sunflower was 8 months old when I discovered cow's milk, when I actually discovered, like for the first time, cow's milk protein allergy. And we had tried and tested almost every single diet under the sun that I could find, including the Dr. Sears TED, the total elimination diet, dairy free, soy free, vegan, carnivore, GAPS, SCD, whole 30, keto, paleo. I pretty much tried everything, and nothing was giving me consistent results. But I did start to see something in there, that she had better days when I had certain foods and, less so on other things. Elizabeth, I am so happy that you've got a good GP listening to you. Really, 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 like, hold on. When you get a good GP like that, hold on to them with both hands. Really, really, really. Sorry, whole baby massage. Your GP said that you was just a first time mum. That is another common sort of blasé remark that GPs say. Oh, so you're a first time mum, you don't know what to expect. We need to trust our guts a huge amount, because actually we know a lot more than they give us credit for. Keris, you told me it was all silent reflux after they chose being normal. Only just been able to put her in a bouncy chair now. Yes, Hannah, this will be. Yes, Hannah, go to sleep. Absolutely. This will be available on a replay later on this evening. Chloe's really not felt believed or listened to because you think it's gluten, not CMPA. They've told you it's normal, etc. Yeah, we've just been referred to as a specialist as omeprazole stopped working and the dosage was regularly upped. Yeah, Rianne, that's another issue as well. Anyway, the only question I was only ever asking from any health practitioner that I met was, why is my baby in pain? What is causing her pain? And none of them ever even tried to answer it. The answers I was given was, well, some babies get reflux, it's normal, deal with it. And the truth is, it is nothing but normal. So before this, my professional master's is a background in mechanical and manufacturing engineer with mathematics, a master's in business, and a license yet in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. I spent 14 years in a massive blue chip company solving massive complex problems. I was sort of, my happy place was with the biggest Excel spreadsheet of data, doing detailed analysis to identify root cause issues. Now, I was pretty much a data monkey. Loved it. I'm really, really good at it as well. I had a real strength of being able to see the full picture and get down to the detail to see what needed to change in order to resolve complex program management issues. Now, that unique combination of Western logic from my engineering degree or master's and my Eastern medicine taught me that above all else, we always need to seek the underlying cause of any problem, because that is where the key to the solution lies. Sunflower was about 9 months old. I was completely on my knees when it came to postnatal depression. I was sleeping literally, and many of you will get this, 2 sets of 2 hours broken sleep a night. So maybe 4 hours sleep a night, basically surviving on that. And nobody was able to help me or explain anything to me after months and months of begging for help. So I had to apply everything that I knew to my daughter. So I captured lots and lots and lots of data and analysed it. And I started to figure out over a long period of time what was going on for her. By the time Sunflower was 1, she was reflux free. But and looking back, it needn't have taken that long. My second daughter came along 2 years later. She also had reflux. This time it was with different underlying causes. And again, she was here to teach me stuff that I knew nothing about. So after dancing with postnatal depression for over 3 years, I made the decision to use everything that I had learned and discovered through helping my own daughters and myself through reflux to change other families' lives and their experience of parenting with a baby who has reflux. And so the baby reflux lady was born. I felt really strongly about doing this as a new career. I quit a 6-figure corporate job, plowed all of our savings, multiples of tens of thousands of pounds, into the production of the book, which is, I don't even have it here, The Baby Reflux Lady Survival Guide. Somebody was saying they have it already. And updating my studies with nutrition, with looking at diploma in nutrition for allergies and nutrition for allergies and intolerances, infant microbiome, tongue tie, managing pediatric SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And I have a few other trainings done and a number of others in the pipeline. So I will be honest. A lot of people go, do you do this for the money? It's like, yes, of course I do. I have a family to feed, a mortgage to pay, and I'm earning an awful lot less now than I did several years ago. But I wanted to do it in a much more fulfilling way. And this is a hugely fulfilling way and rewarding way to change lives. And I absolutely love it because it allows me to be the best version of myself. So I'm going to be honest with you again. At the end of this webinar, I'm going to tell you about the ways that the Baby Reflux ladies can help you. And if you want to leave early, then please do. That's absolutely fine. And another one, if you think that doctors should know this information, then yes, they probably should. However, they don't. Even pediatricians don't do this. I do, and the other certified baby reflux ladies do. We're the only group of people in the world who look at infant reflux holistically to understand what all of the contributing factors are or could be in any child on a case-by-case basis, to understand what is their root cause of reflux and therefore what is the correct path of action to resolve their reflux. This is really important. Reflux is not a disease which has a one-size-fits-all answer. For any of you, if your kids are on medication, has the medication completely freed them from the reflux? And if so, are they then reflux free? I'd love to know whereabouts in your reflux journeys you guys are or your babies are. And as I talk to you right now, these are facts about what doctors do and do not know. Hopefully it will change one day, but until they do, the Baby Reflux ladies are here to support you all. Now, I'm going to jump straight in to the first issue. And this is, I'm just going to check my notes, is that reflux can cause physical damage. Okay, this is a big statement. So somebody, omeprazole works wonderful for your daughter, which is brilliant, and your son, not so much. Your baby is on PPI and a gastric emptying medication. Okay, so we need to, I'm not going to go into medications in this particular webinar. That is, again, a huge thing in its own right. There is a medications guide, interactive guide on the website if you want to go and grab that at any stage. But saying that reflux is normal is not acceptable anymore, because reflux can cause injury. And I know that that's a big statement, but every day you guys are speaking to doctors, you're speaking to health visitors, midwives, pediatricians, allergists, maternity nurses, whoever is around you to support you. And you're probably asking for help because you know that your baby is either in some sort of discomfort or in pain. And every day these professionals are telling you that their reflux, discomfort, pain and suffering are normal. Let me ask you this. Would you be happy going to your GP and describing your baby's symptoms as yours? Would you be happy then with the answer you've been given? And obviously I don't know what answers each of you have been given, but answers like, it's okay, you'll grow out of it in 12 months. What you're experiencing, throwing up after every meal, is completely normal. You know, what else? That here's a medication, we don't know what's causing it, but here, have some medication and stay on it for as long as you need to. If you've read any of my social media posts, you'll know that the ability to regurgitate is normal. It's burping, it's vomiting. However, constant regurgitation that causes pain and discomfort is not normal. So medication isn't actually too expensive to prescribe. Specialist milks are too expensive to prescribe. Ranitidine, ranitidine is not really on the shelves in many countries. It is in South Africa, but not around the rest of the world. So let me take omeprazole. Omeprazole is about £1.20 Great British pounds per month per person. A box of Neocate amino acid milk is £40 per box. And we're talking about £160 to £200 per month per child. So medication isn't prescribed because it's too expensive. Medication isn't prescribed because doctors have been told not to. studies show that it is no more effective than the placebo. And there are reasons for that. It's because it doesn't address the underlying cause of reflux. Again, I'm not going to go into that tonight, but that really is why medications are, the research is showing that they're not as effective as anything else. The challenge the doctors have is that they're not trained to look at what the underlying causes of reflux are. And so they can say, well, no medication, but they're not saying what else. Just because it's not medication doesn't mean there isn't an answer. Okay. The training is not provided to teach healthcare professionals what reflux really is, or how damaging it can be, what causes it, and how they could help resolve it. They simply don't, and they can't act on information that they don't have. Unfortunately, the costs are high that go with this misunderstanding that reflux is harmless. So first of all, there is a risk of physical damage to the esophagus from the presence of stomach acid that should not be there. When we say that positing or vomiting is normal, I want to tell you that it's not. For all of those babies who are telling us with their crying and their behaviors that they are in pain, many of them, or most of them, have stomach acid in their esophagus. Yes, there are babies who only bring up milk and there's no stomach acid in it, and that is not damaging. However, there's a reason why that happens, and sometimes it may be beneficial to understand that before choosing to take action or not. But stomach acid is not supposed to be in the esophagus. The acid wears away the really thin mucosal lining of the esophagus when it's there, and in the presence of acids that is greater than the mucus, than the rate of what mucus the esophagus can produce, it wears away then not just the mucus, but also the epithelial cells, the cells that line the esophagus, and they can be damaged. This is where it gets really, really painful. And that's called erosive esophagitis, and it is really painful. My eldest had it and we didn't realize, and literally every time she was eating, it was burning her throat as she swallowed. Imagine, those little scrapes you get where just take off the top layer of skin and then it's exposed. Like, imagine if you accidentally poured vinegar on it or something, or lemon juice. That's the sort of searing pain that can be in the esophagus if this esophageal lining has been burnt away by stomach acid. So I was saying, my son was on ranitidine as a baby, then came off at 9 months. Reflux was back around 18 months. He was sick every time he ate. So embarrassing in public. This is a really big thing, is that parents, even I did as well, I was embarrassed because of how my baby's behavior was in public. But it's actually nothing to be embarrassed about. Embarrassment is not what's going on here. What we need to do is understand what is going on for a child who is vomiting all the time and address it. Why is that happening? And address that underlying cause. So you said he had omeprazole, ranitidine wasn't available anymore. By 2 years, he seemed okay. Can the reflux keep coming back? If he's still on medication, then yes, because it may not be, the medication may not be addressing the underlying cause. Actually, chances are it's not addressing. Actually, I'll tell you right now for a fact, the medications never address the underlying cause of reflux in babies. So when we take reflux seriously, and by addressing it early and resolve it, we can prevent stomach acid getting into the esophagus and therefore prevent the damage to the esophagus itself, which can lead to more serious complications. The use of medications prevents the damage by reducing the acidity of stomach acid. However, it does not prevent the regurgitation of stomach contents into the esophagus. And that is where we really need to be looking, because it is not normal for stomach contents to constantly come back into the esophagus. Are you following my train of thought on this? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up or a yes or even a no. No, you've lost me in the comments, just so I know where you're going. Okay, great. Super. That is good. Yes, yes, yes. Excellent. Super. I love to know that I'm actually on track and I've still got you with me. So first of all, if we believe that reflux is normal, we are allowing babies we're opening up their risk to esophageal damage. Okay. And that is not a very nice place for them to be. So this is Lara. This isn't Lara, this is Lara's son. She said she went from an unhappy, distressed baby to a happy, pain-free one off drugs and with the ability to sleep on his own, something she couldn't even imagine a month previously. And that my support was invaluable for her mental health. She can't recommend me enough. She's absolutely amazing. This was, again, understanding what was going on for this little guy, addressing the underlying cause, and within a month, he was medication free, sleeping happily, and all of these wonderful, wonderful things. So Laura is saying, my 7-week-old was given Gaviscon and still sick, but it made it thicker. He was choking on it. Yeah. So again, Laura, the Gaviscon doesn't address and never addresses the underlying cause of reflux. It makes it harder and more difficult and potentially more dangerous for regurgitation to happen. And Lauren is saying, can silent reflux cause damage, or is it just when they're being physically sick? No, Lauren, silent reflux can cause damage. Silent reflux. So the only difference between reflux and silent reflux is that reflux brings vomit. Silent reflux doesn't come up as far as the mouth or doesn't pass out. So in babies who have silent reflux, we will very often hear them swallowing a lot. Or we'll hear something gurgling up. The problem with that is it's still bringing stomach acid anywhere into the esophagus. Anywhere in this pipe is not where stomach acid is supposed to be. So it can continue to cause that damage to the esophagus. So the second reason I have for you tonight is that the complete ignorance of infant pain as needing anything to be done to address it is negligent. Okay, pain in infancy affects the development of the neural tube and the spinal cord. Before 1980, there was a belief that neonates, newborns, did not experience pain. However, thankfully, research over the last 40 years is showing something different. In fact, since 2017, we're finding even that the babies have an even higher threshold lower threshold and higher sensation of pain than adults. So studies are showing us, and I quote, immediate and long-lasting harmful consequences to the nervous system when infants experience severe or repeated pain. Okay, and what do these consequences look like? So this is quoted from this paper, which is from 2002. You can see the references there. Painful stressors may lead to sleep disturbances, feeding problems, and inability to self-regulate. Long-term effects, let me get the rest of the slide. Long-term effects may include altered pain perception, chronic pain syndromes, and somatic complaints. The somatic complaints are when pain in one part of the body or pain experienced shows up as a physical illness in the body, much like the link between stress and cancer, for example. Stress is like an emotional, mental type of pain and irritation, and then cancer is a physical representation, manifestation of that, basically. Repetitive pain in the preterm infant may be associated with attention deficit disorders, learning disorders, and behavioral problems later in childhood. Now, if that's not enough, there's also impacts on your mental health, your confidence in parenting, the bond you form with your child, your relationship with your partner and any other children you have, your productivity in the workplace, your partner's productivity in their workplace. None of these are taken into account by any of the medical professionals when they gaslight and invalidate your reality. When we stop making this mistake, that pain is an issue for infants, we get the opportunity to change the outlook for these children. They're no longer exposed to repetitive and ongoing pain from reflux. They get to sleep properly, which itself, and we'll see this in a moment, has hugely, hugely powerful positive consequences for emotional, mental, and intellectual development. Wendy, yes, I can send you what I'll do is I don't send out slides because this is all my IP. I will send you the links to all the research that's quoted on the slides. Okay. Rianne, can omeprazole cause disruptive sleep or no sleep? Yes, it can. Sleep disruption is one of the lesser common side effects of medications, but they do cause sleep disturbances. Or is that reflux has not been resolved and is still causing discomfort? It could be a combination of both. We need to understand how the medication has changed things and how things are manifesting at the moment, and then understand like the comparison between baby pre-medication, then on medication, and understand where they're at. The goal that I have when I'm working with any child, and all of the baby reflux ladies who I've trained, pardon me, I'm online already. Just a reminder for me to be here. What was I saying? Oh yes, that myself and all certified baby reflux ladies, we all have awareness and training and knowledge around how medications work. We do not change medications, but we are able to help interpret symptoms that children have when they're on medications, to understand if they are likely to be contributed to by the medications, or if it's something else and the reflux alone in the background. So Claire, how do you know what a normal, oh sorry, going back up, I've missed some. Christina, if a baby is treated for reflux but doesn't actually have reflux, can the meds cause reflux symptoms once weaning starts? No, however, because of the issues with these medications, they are not side effect free. They are not free from consequences, and long-term consequences of that is that I completely disagree with any child being on medications, first of all, that aren't designed or licensed for use in their age group, but aren't actively contributing positively to their life. The medications can cause digestive discomfort, although if things have gotten worse since starting solids, then very often it's the weaning and the foods themselves, which is something that I look at as well. Claire, how do you know a normal amount of sick for a baby and when it's classed as reflux? This I put down to your observations. Typically, so ask yourself, if you were your child and throwing up as much as they're throwing up, would you think it's normal? Most of us only throw up when we have a tummy bug, or when we have maybe had, I don't know, too much alcohol, or a dodgy fish or something like that. There's always a reason for it. So there should always be a reason for it. We understand what that reason is, then we can address it. It doesn't have to be painful to allow your baby to be free from it. Sarah, I'm not going to go through dummies. There's it's a good and a bad thing. There is a video on my Facebook page on dummies. Yes, Louise, Gaviscon can cause sleep disturbances. And your 5-week-old LD, your 5-week-old daughter has a hoarse voice and sounds congested, sign of celiac reflux doing long-term damage. It is a sign of some reflux causing some sort of damage to the voice box. Thankfully, I have experienced personally the phenomenal healing power of our bodies when they are given the right tools, that I don't believe much is irreparable. You know, it's not necessarily long-term damage. It could be long-term damage if it continues and gets so far out of hand that it can't come back. However, when we stop things, understand the cause, address it, and provide the correct environment for the human body is absolutely phenomenal at what we can regenerate. So hopefully that makes sense, because I don't want to scare people, but we can absolutely do so much about this. So this is another example. This is Ashley. Ashley said her daughter, so at 15 months, I had a phone call with Ashley. Her daughter was still suffering, struggling with solids, had massive stomach pain, wind, bloating, constipation every day, and everyday life was a struggle. She couldn't even sit in a shopping trolley without being in pain. I changed their lives. Life is good again. For this, they're eternally grateful. 3 months on, they were completely med-free and eating 3 meals a day, which this little girl was struggling with. And that was, you know, we saw some very quick changes within 3 days, but then 3 months later to be completely med-free after over a year on medication was absolutely phenomenal. Emma, your son is nearly 6 months, carry on Gaviscon for silent reflux. We have started to reduce dosage yourselves as no forward plan given from the GP. We are hoping that as we wean, he'll be able to reintroduce the Gaviscon. We'll be able to reduce the Gaviscon as he reduces milk, and that was structured weaning plan. We can see if solid food has an impact. You see, Emma, the food isn't, so the fact that milk versus solid food is not the cause of reflux. There is something else causing the reflux, and you can choose to wait if you want and see if solids are going to be the be all and end all. For a lot of people, they're not. What we need to do, what you can do, and I will talk about this later, so you can identify what that underlying cause is and be free of it, so you don't need to wait for solids and then enjoy solids later. Harriet, your twins are 21 weeks, 11 weeks corrected age, and they'll be treated for reflux with the omeprazole and cow's milk protein allergy. Their sickness was so bad, and we'll say reflux does tend to occur even more in premature babies. Sickness is so bad. The only way I've stopped it is giving Carabel. They're still a little bit sick, always congested, and lie them flat at night. And I understand being able to lie a baby flat at night is so powerful, for able to let them down. So that's incredible. If they need Carabel, the underlying cause of the reflux hasn't been addressed. I look at this going, so we're thickening the milk in this case to make it more difficult for it to come up. We need to understand why they're not able to keep regular milk in their stomachs, because we should all have the ability to even keep water in our stomachs. If you threw up every time you drank a glass of water, would you think that was normal? We need to be able to drink and keep water and fluids in our stomachs. There is always a reason to what's causing it. And for some, Carabel can cause more digestive disruption than others because it is primarily made of maltodextrin. It is potentially another allergen as well. Anyway, I will move on to the third reason. Before we go on, have I still got everybody with me? Is this making sense? Just to make sure. Yes, excellent. Yes, a lot of you have tick boxes and thumbs up. Good. Yes. Okay, still with me. Right. I've lost my notes completely, actually. Rebecca, you were told by the doctor that it was a valve at the top of the stomach which is not properly developed in some babies, and so it just takes time for that valve to mature, develop, and function. Is there any truth in that? None whatsoever. So I will say this. The valve at the top of the stomach is no more than a ring of muscle. So we have esophageal muscle. The muscle runs downwards, okay? It runs downwards. At the bottom, just as it goes into the stomach, the muscle runs around. So it runs around the tube. So say this is the esophagus. Muscle goes that direction, downwards, and at the bottom, it goes in a circle. When the muscle at the bottom contracts, it closes, and then it releases and opens and closes. That is how it works. Every single child on this planet is born with lower muscle tone. We know this and we accept this because they don't get up and run when they're 4 hours old. They're not baby horses. If anybody has had a baby horse and their child has run within 4 hours, please let me know, because I'm uninformed of that. And you have a miracle child. And you should be earning loads of money getting some pictures of this walking 3-day-old baby. However, we understand that, the external muscles, babies don't even know they've got limbs. We watch them as they in awe go, oh, I've got control of this thing. Oh, it's got these things on the end of it. They look in awe as they develop this muscle control. They simply don't have high muscle tone at birth. The esophagus is muscle. The lower esophageal valve, which is this valve between the esophagus and the stomach, is also weaker. However, it has enough strength in it to keep food in the stomach. There is always a reason for it for stomach acid to come back up from the stomach. Okay, if you think about it, even if baby is upward, the whole digestive system goes down. What is causing milk to come up? It's not the weakness of the valve. That's not the cause. Even in adults, we get reflux. It comes up. It's not a weakness in the valve. It never is. So we need to understand what it can be. Going through a list, right? I wasn't planning to do this, but off the top of my head list. Contributory or causative factors to reflux include folic acid supplementation in pregnancy, genetic defects including MTHFR, FUT2 gene. We have gestational diabetes. We have position in birth, so very often multiples because they get squashed in utero. We have particularly long labors, particularly fast labors, any intervention during labor, antibiotics for mum in pregnancy, antibiotics for baby after birth, antibiotics at any time for breastfeeding mum. Latch issues, including tongue ties, temporal mandibular disorder, so any tension in the jaw. We have any physical trauma to the child. We have digestive issues. We have allergens, we have exposure to irritants. We have Yeah, there's a lot more. There's about 30 different things that can cause and contribute to reflux. So this is why before I would say, somebody's asked, can an osteopath help? Sometimes, depending what the underlying cause is. I don't like people to go and spend money going, I guess this, I get this, I get this, I'll guess. There is a structure of doing things, and sometimes an osteopath can help. And even in babies where an osteopath can help, sometimes if it's done in the wrong order at the wrong time, it's not going to help long term. So we need to understand exactly what's going on. So Anika, you're saying, oh, hang on, we go back. Oh, sorry, I'm just having a look at comments. Anika, your little girl is just over 4 months. You've been dairy free for over 3 months and advised an intolerance. It improved things a bit, but it improved things a little, but problems through the night have got to the worst they've ever been. Again, there is a pattern, there's an understanding to go with this of why it's happening. I promise you, there is always a reason. And your husband and I have to take shifts to sleep upright with her. She rides constantly all night. Yeah, again, there's reasons, and I promise you, your babies are giving you clues in their behaviors and their symptoms every single time. So Zoe, to us too, you had severe obstructive apnea due to reflux. The baby was turning blue at home due to reflux, and you're sent to the hospital because of it. Yeah, and rightly so. Absolutely. If your child is ever having trouble breathing, you should go straight to A&E. Always, always. And if they have turned blue, it means they're just not getting enough oxygen, so they need help breathing. Absolutely, go to A&E. They sent us home after no other explanation, just saying he needs to wait out and sphincter would strengthen over time. Oh, Zoe, I'm really sorry about that. This is my biggest frustration. The doctors don't have the training and the understanding about what reflux really is. They do not look at reflux as a symptom. They are taught that it is a disease and they need medication to change it. That is not true, because the medication doesn't address the underlying cause of reflux. Sarah, your 4.5-month-old has a bubbly, wet sounding chest even when upright in the carrier. So congested at night she can't breathe through her nose, and it's like white sticky glue when you see it in the morning. Her nose streams constantly, and she streams fluid out of her mouth, not just normal dribbling. Yeah, her hiccups, coughing, regurgitation, etc. is so extreme and nobody can help. Health visitors saw it today and was at a loss. And to hold her upright, and her feeding is so difficult, it's upsetting not knowing what to do. I promise you, this is all stuff that we absolutely can help with. This is why I've created the Baby Reflux Lady, is so that we are able to help this. Your baby is telling you what is going on in every single symptom and behavior that they display. I promise you that. It is our job as parents and professionals to play a bit of a Sherlock Holmes game. Look at everything. Like, I look at over 80 different symptoms and behaviors for every single child. My thoughts on fundoplication surgery: I think it's unnecessary in 99.99 cases. We need to understand the simple things first, Lauren, because there's really long-term effects that go with fundoplication, of babies not being able to vomit, not being able to burp, and the whole digestive system isn't able to regulate itself. So possible causes, Elizabeth, it's on my Instagram feed. If you look at, or Facebook, wherever you are, if you just flick through the profile, you will find causes of reflux as a post, and that has all the list. Is it normal to give baby anti-reflux milk to keep down? No, I don't believe so. You don't need to, when we understand the underlying cause. This is, again, it's like that comment I made earlier on, Alice. Babies should be able to keep water in their stomach. If they're not able to keep this in their stomach, what is going on? And Sarah, you were told to wait it out and early weaning would help. It may or may not. You can pin all your hopes on it if you want. I'm going to jump on to reason 3. Okay, so this is why sleep is so important for children. Okay, it's not just any old sleep. This is the importance of good quality sleep, because ignoring sleep difficulties in infants and young children holds the potential of a lifetime of cascading consequences for them. So many children with reflux suffer with sleep difficulties because of their reflux and digestive issues. Hands up or let me know. Would you say that your little one is struggling with sleep difficulties? This can be difficulty getting to sleep, difficulty staying asleep, and not having enough restful sleep. So restful sleep is sleep where babies literally do not move. They're kind of going, you should have to go into your baby and like get a light. So I'm seeing lots of yeses. Get a light and look at their chest really carefully to see it going up and down. You shouldn't be able to hear them breathing. You should really have to look closely, go, yeah, they're alive, that's good. Yeah, so we're having uncomfortable nights, extremely light sleepers, latched on all the night to soothe reflux. Yeah, okay. So proper sleep is really, really important. Did you know that sleep is actually more important than food and exercise, second only to water for our survival? Do you know that? And this is something that in our modern culture, we kind of fail to recognize. We think Netflix is more important. I certainly think Netflix is more important when I've been watching Bridgerton. If you haven't seen it and you're looking for something to keep you awake at night, which I know some of you probably are, then I can highly recommend Bridgerton if you haven't seen it yet. It's a good watch. I am trying to, step away from the Netflix because sleep is extremely, extremely important. So when babies get to sleep properly, their developmental issues that there's risk of developmental issues we're going to see, and when they sleep properly, these risks pretty much go away. So why exactly is sleep so important for children? Well, it plays an absolutely crucial role in the development across all areas: physical, neurological, emotional, and cognitive development. Okay, it has an absolute direct effect on their happiness levels. The more and better quality sleep the children get, the happier they are. We tend to observe this in babies as tired children, grumpy children. Suzanne, let me know afterward if you ping me at the bottom end of this, because I may not scroll back up. I'll let you know. Good quality sleep has a so good quality sleep positively impacts alertness and attention, cognitive performance, mood, resiliency, vocabulary acquisition, and learning and memory. Or rather, with poor quality sleep and sleep deprivation, things are more difficult than they should be, especially the learning and the school type stuff. That's no problem, Ali's. The replay will be available for you sort of in a few hours' time. Good quality sleep also has a direct relationship on growth, particularly in early infancy, which is why it's vital that babies get enough of it. So a study, which again, I'll provide you the links to all these because they're all HTML, so I can copy and paste them into an email later for you. Shorter sleep was associated with a higher BMI in children who slept less than 12 hours per day by the age of 3 months. Do you know, is your child getting at least 12 hours per day, even in broken sleep? My eldest, being an engineer, I had an app for absolutely everything. She was sleeping 8 hours a day, 8 hours in 24 when she was 3 and 4 days old. Like for those first 6 months, she was averaging 8 hours sleep a night, which is far, far, far fewer than what she should have. And then in toddlers, napping is necessary for memory consolidation, executive attention, and motor skill development. Okay, so all of these things, sleep is so important. So then what happens when children don't get enough quality sleep over time? It's a myriad of issues. Now, these, we often don't associate them with chronic sleep deprivation. Oh, Rianne, okay, there's lots of sleep issues going on. Many of these we don't associate with chronic sleep deprivation, and we go for medical and chemical fixes, such as ADHD. Okay, mood swings that mimic effects mood swings with effects that mimic ADHD. There's a lot of children with ADHD have sleep problems. There's a lot of kids with sleep problems who have been diagnosed with ADHD, and they're treated with chemicals and drugs to rebalance the brain chemistry, when for a lot of them, what they actually need, or what's going on, is chronic sleep deprivation. These things don't happen overnight. The sleep deprivation builds up to a stage where their processing centers can no longer process the emotional stuff of the day, so they can't detach events from emotions. And so when children remember events, they remember the emotion, they step right back into the emotion, and it comes over in a torrent. It's overwhelming emotions a lot of the time. So Samantha, you're saying your daughter woke 45-minute intervals for 15 months and still wakes 2 to 3 times a night. She's now 4. She's showing signs of ADHD, and it may have been down to the reflux. 100% agree with you. The great thing about this is if she's having sleep troubles, you can always address it. Once we understand what's going on, you can help her sleep more effectively. She should be sleeping, as I said a few minutes ago, children should be sleeping motionless for hours on end. It might be 2, 3 hours, it might be 5 or 6 hours, and gradually builds up. And we have these patterns, and we do it as adults where, the light sleep, the dream, we go down for deep sleep where we're just like the house alarm, the fire brigade, very little would wake us. The statement of, you need to wake the dead in order to wake that sleeping person. That's a sign of an extremely good restorative deep sleep when the brain is extremely busy. If you want to know more about sleep, have a read of the book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Absolutely phenomenal read. Really good listen to, actually. Just don't listen to it while you're driving. The other effects it has is allergic rhinitis, so hay fever, problems with the immune system, and anxiety and depression in children. And it increases the risk of future cardiovascular problems, including obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure, which are precursors to huge health issues long term. Okay, we know that the children in the country, especially in the UK and the US, are getting more and more obese. And some of this is happening because of sleep deprivation. Some of it is happening because of processed food in our modern diet and just not having the understanding of what we used to do. So that's why it's really important to address sleep. So this is Kat and a gorgeous little guy, Jacob, and she sent me this email a few months ago, which was just, we're free of reflux. And Kat is one that's always kind of going, I just wish your services could be in the mainstream. We're planning that, that's the intention, is to get this stuff mainstream. But in the meantime, I'm not holding back in helping all the families who want help. But when we stop believing that reflux, and when we stop accepting that reflux is normal, we get to change the outlook and the opportunities for our children and for ourselves. Your baby is no longer exposed to repetitive and ongoing pain from reflux. They get to sleep properly, which is hugely powerful in terms of its developmental consequences, emotional, mental, intellectual, cognitive. Your babies are no longer in pain. They're no longer in danger of any physical damage to their esophagus. They can learn to speak properly, to swallow properly, to digest food properly, to not develop food aversions. These are things I didn't even address. Their facial development, their face gets to grow properly, and we reduce the risk of the need for orthodontics. Okay, all things I didn't actually get to discuss today. The complication is, as I mentioned earlier, there's over 30 different contributing and causative factors. So there isn't a one size fits all approach. This is why the stepped approach of medications don't work. The answer that works is a process, and it's a process that answers the question, what is causing this child's reflux? When we answer this question on an individual basis each and every time, we get the right answer for every child each and every time. There are cases where it's rather complex, and yes, of course, it is going to take, like for some, there is the requirement for medication, but it's not the best first step. Okay, when we look at the cause and understand what's causing reflux for every child, we stand a much better chance of actually resolving it for them. And if we don't resolve it fully, we at least understand what's causing it. We can manage it, and we can reduce their pain and reduce their suffering massively. And the impact that this has on you, your partners, your families, your own sleep, your own mental health. So if there is one thing that you can take away from this webinar, I want you to know that you can make a difference to your baby's reflux struggles and to your own lives. And the thing I am saddest about is that our doctors simply don't have this training. They don't understand reflux holistically. That's no problem, Emma. They are taught to see that all health problems are something that require pharmacology, a chemical alteration of the body. Don't get me wrong, Western medicine is absolutely amazing when it comes to acute conditions. If I've chopped off my finger, if I've burst an appendix, contracted a virus, I'm going straight to my local hospital. However, when it comes to chronic conditions, this is where the Western medical system fails us a bit. It fails to identify underlying causes like chronic back pain, fibromyalgia, and even baby reflux. Okay, so those areas where Western medicine is amazing is where it treats the underlying cause. You know, they sew your finger back on, they treat the infection with antibiotics, which then they work with the body rather than against it, using the body and providing an environment for the body to use its own healing capabilities and providing support where necessary. With baby reflux, medication is not support. Ignoring the underlying causes is not support. So a few weeks ago, let me ask, before I go on, has this made sense to this point? Does that make sense? Do you feel that you're actually right in constantly asking questions? I'm assuming that you're still asking questions about reflux, which is why you're here. Yes, good. Excellent. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. It's quite important that actually, first of all, that you can still hear me, but that it makes sense. So a few weeks ago, my husband asked me to figure out how long. Oh goodness, so Zoe, are you saying it makes you feel better being so angry about going home from the hospital without a solution? Yes, you're absolutely right to be angry about that. However, as I said, the doctors don't have this training. The nice guidelines we have in the UK, the guidelines that flow out from the World Health Organization, they do not say anywhere to look for the underlying cause of reflux. It's not something that's done. NASCAN and the CEFGAN, which are the North American Society and the European Society of Hepatology and Gastroenterologists, they've written like a 73-page paper, it was updated in 2018, on the approach to baby reflux. In no circumstances did they ever say, let's look at the underlying cause. Yeah, I've read that paper from beginning to end going, where is the let's look at the cause? Sarah, don't give up yet. Don't give up yet. Because there are some of us who can help. And Elizabeth, you're saying you feel baby doesn't seem to be suffering as much as all of your babies. I can't imagine the pain you're feeling. Elizabeth, I will say that everybody's experience of reflux is unique. Everybody's experience is unique. So don't downplay what's going on for you. It may or may not, it is going to be different to somebody else's. That doesn't make it any more or less valid. Please. It's not about your child suffering or not and how much they're suffering, whether you do anything about it. Everybody, every single child deserves and wants to be able to sleep. They all deserve to be able to keep their food down. They all deserve to be able to be happy. I don't believe that babies are born as, oh, that's a grumpy soul. They're just a grumpy child. They're not grumpy. They're trying to tell us something. Sarah, it makes you feel like it's something I'm doing wrong. No, it's nothing you're doing wrong. Absolutely nothing you're doing wrong. And this is something I say to every parent I work with. You cannot act on information you don't have. In the same way, doctors can't act on information they do not have. So, Jolani, in South Africa, lots of babies are anorexia. Yes, it's always the first option, but that is the first option across the Western world. Okay, it's not just South Africa. Rianne, you got ignored by initial GP, ended up at A&E at 4 weeks, given a omeprazole, and that was it. No further help support, no investigations. Feel like I've been left to suffer. Your little one is now 15 weeks. And unfortunately, Rianne, that is that is a really common story. And that's what breaks my heart, is that it doesn't need to be like that. Charlotte, your daughter had silent reflux, never diagnosed, now 4, without reflux. So you're too late to do anything but interest in possible ramifications. She has various food chemical intolerances, gut issues, immune responses, eczema, which we manage partially by diet. Yeah, the thing is, the great thing, as I said before, Charlotte, is I fully believe in the ability of the human body to repair itself when it's given the right circumstances, the right environment. It's just phenomenal. So being told you're overfeeding baby is probably not a cause. Probably not, Laura. Probably not. Oh, Isabel, you've been told your baby is a grumpy baby. Sandra, I don't believe any mother is doing anything wrong. You're absolutely correct. Yes, you usually led by what the GP tells them to do. Yeah, completely agree that every baby is an individual, needs to be treated that way by finding out exactly what is going for each baby and their parents' need. Yes, 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 Sandra, 100% agree with you there. So a few weeks ago, my husband asked me to work out how much time I've devoted to learning about infant reflux and developing my practice and supporting babies over the last 8 years, and it turned out to be well over 12,000 hours. When it comes to professional careers like my engineering training and that, you generally get termed an expert once you've passed the 10,000 hours mark. That's kind of the mark of when you've been doing something for 10,000 hours, you've seen the majority of it, and you're considered an expert. So yeah, I sort of claim that title. And I have a mission to help as many families around the world as I possibly can, which is why I've written the book, The Baby Reflux Lady Survival Guide. I train other people to become certified baby reflux ladies. We are waiting for our first male yet, so we will let him decide what he's going to be called, the baby reflux person, when he graduates. And I've created a number of online courses to guide parents, that's you, through understanding reflux for your baby to get you the specific answers that you've been searching for. If you want, you can absolutely spend the next 3 more months waiting to see a pediatrician who'll probably give you the next thing to try, rather than explaining exactly what's causing your baby's reflux and what you can do to help it. Or you can wait to see if it just goes away on its own. You can wait. You can keep hoping that tomorrow they're going to wake up a different child, suddenly being 100% comfortable in their body, feeding happily and sleeping like a dream. You can invest all the money you like in private healthcare and in drugs for your child, but none of it is going to address the underlying cause of their reflux. If you want, you can choose to take action now. As I said, nobody else is doing, other than the certified baby reflux ladies, nobody is doing what I do the way I do it. No one else takes a completely holistic approach for reflux, understanding the underlying anatomy and physiology first. What are the links between those causative and contributory issues? What are the mechanics and emotions and energies that are going on for every individual child? You will always have to see doctors and pediatricians to discuss medications. This is not something I do. I can help your baby get reflux free, and then you can have the conversation with your doctors that say, right, how do we wean off the medications? Because when your baby no longer has reflux, they don't need gastric acid suppression medications. So the e-courses aren't for anybody, aren't for everyone. Many of you will just continue to do what doctor says, and that's fine. Many of you will continue to believe if a doctor doesn't have an answer, then there is an answer to be had. That's fine. I actually can't. No problem, Wendy. I can't help people who don't want to be helped. However, if on the other hand, you are the sort of person who wants to really understand your baby's reflux, that is something I absolutely can help you with. So what I have is the online courses. We have the reflux free baby workshop, which is all about understanding what is the underlying cause of your baby's reflux. Annie, yes, latch problems can trigger it. It may be a latch issue, it may or may not. This is why everybody I work with, we go through 80 different symptoms and behaviors to understand exactly what's going on. Nicola, you've been on prescription formula, however, you wish your daughter was not on medication. Constantly advise she's not ready, so don't want to remove it and cause her more pain when she comes off. Exactly. So you kind of need to understand what's the underlying cause first, address that, and then see what's going on. So the value of this course is about £700, but of course I don't charge that. This is available for just £99, and it's immediate access. Within an hour, you go through this workshop. It's a 40-minute workshop in the first hour, and in the first session of it, and you get to understand exactly what's going on for your little one. We also have the weaning and solids workshops. These are 2 different courses. The content is exactly the same. The layout is different. One of them is for babies just starting solids, and the other is for babies who are already established on solids. The content is the same. So we have 6 weeks of suggested meal plans. We have the Safer Foods Guide, which is the sort of foods you need to be looking at in age groups, lined up with how a baby's digestive system develops. We also include, it's not on this, is all the science behind it, why this works, what's going on for your child, how you look at, what are the reflux flares that they get, what do those reactions tell you about what's going on for them. There's guides on how do you introduce allergens and irritants, looking at the impact that reflux medications have on the food choices. How do you manage potential food aversions? Histamine sensitivity and SIBO. SIBO is a small intestine bacterial overgrowth workshop, which is really important. We're seeing a lot of babies who are on long-term medication coming up with histamine sensitivity and SIBO as a result of these long-term medications. We've also got sleep tips for toddlers and a wonderful workshop with a nutritionist, Julie Clark, on calcium for dairy-free babies. The value of that one is over £600, and again, that is just £99. And then there is a masterclass on breastfeeding babies with allergies and reflux. We look at baby's digestion and breast milk, because actually it's mum's diet, mum's body and everything. Looking at, it's not just the top 10 allergens. So I get so many mums who say, I've eliminated all this, but nothing's changed. And that's because it's not the allergens. We need to understand what's going on for each individual child, how and why to eliminate. And then most importantly is how to rebuild your diet. I absolutely hate it when I see mums who say, I've been on an elimination diet for 3 months, it hasn't made a damn bit of difference. That is because either it's not addressing the underlying cause, or it's not the right foods to be eliminating. We need to be on a bigger range of food. I myself survived, and I don't recommend this for anybody, but butternut squash, chicken, and avocado for 3 weeks. And I was so scared to introduce anything else because finally I had a child who was able to sleep. It was unbelievable. The value of this is £350, and that's just £42. But for anybody, there is a special offer going with this workshop. And we have, for anybody who's formula fed babies, we have the combined workshop or weaning or solids course, which is a value of £198 for just £174. And if you're breastfeeding and want the breastfeeding masterclass as well, that's £198 instead of £240. So the links for all of these will be on an email that you'll get sometime in the next hour, might already be in your inbox, I'm not quite sure. But this is all about understanding what is going on for your baby, how to reduce and minimize the impacts that they have. And because 54% of babies with reflux get worse with solids, we need to understand what is going on with their digestive maturity. So I'm going to go back to some comments. Nicola, you were saying, if you have any questions, by the way, pop them in. I'll do my best to answer them. I've got another 20 minutes or so. If you want to take up time, I am here to do that. Nicola, you've prescription formula. However, you wish your daughter was not on medication, but constantly advised she's not. Oh, sorry, I already read that. Yeah, we need to be understanding what is the underlying cause of her reflux, address the underlying cause, and then she'll be free from reflux and be able to wean her off the medication easily. So Iris, around 3 months, your baby was beginning to refuse her bottles. And so I looked everywhere and found that she may have a bottle feeding aversion. Once I started addressing that, she seemed better. Since addressing that, she'd been eating no problems. But more recently, at 4.5 months, she's starting to spit up on occasion, which she didn't have before. Does it sound like reflux? Yes, it could be reflux. Generally, anything that's spitting up is reflux related. It is. So reflux, strictly speaking, is the regurgitation of stomach contents into the esophagus. So anything that's coming up from the stomach technically classifies as reflux or regurgitation. Pauline, do I recommend probiotics for babies with reflux? Again, it depends on the case. Probiotics can be brilliant. Equally, they can be harmful in some cases. So we really need to understand. I don't recommend probiotics for every child. It depends on the history of what's going on. So for example, in a child who's suffering with histamine sensitivity, probiotics are going to be a really big problem and make everything worse. But if you do want to try probiotics, the brand I recommend are BioGaia, BioGaia. G-I-A-I, yeah, BioGaia. You get them via Amazon, most pharmacies. So Annie, you've been prescribed medication, but are you right to hold off giving it to your daughter and find the cause? I would recommend that, yes, because with the medications, they can take up to 2 weeks to work. So most doctors will say you need to try them for 3 weeks and try them daily for 3 weeks in order to know if they're going to work or not. In that space of time, you can easily understand the cause and have it rectified and resolved, and your baby can be reflux free within days. Like when we get the right cause, it makes a huge difference really, really quickly. So Stephanie, your little one is 3 months old and on Neocate for 2 months, has resolved non-reflux symptoms, but reflux is just as bad, as not worse. Would you say the underlying cause is now CMPA? Not if they're on Neocate. So there isn't always one cause for every child. So a child can have 2, 3, 10, 20 contributory factors, but we need to understand how they're manifesting in their body and how they're presenting and what's going on to understand why is it causing it. So if they're on Neocate, the cause isn't going to be cow's milk protein allergy anymore because there's no dairy protein in their diet, unless of course they're on a probiotic as well, which is based on a dairy protein, for example. Laura, what's your opinion on oral ties? Do they always contribute to reflux? No, they don't always. They can do. So for example, we will find babies with tongue ties who have reflux. For some of them, the tongue tie will be the cause of reflux. For others, their buccal tie, was a cheek tie up here, might be the cause of their reflux. In others, it'll have absolutely nothing to do with the reflux. You can have a tie released and baby still has reflux the same. We need to understand everything in much more detail. That's why I don't do blanket recommendations. Annie, you're more than welcome. So Tash, how long can prescription formulas take to see a difference? Still spitting up and squirming in sleep on pure amino for a week. Tash, if it's the right thing to be doing, you should be seeing it change in about a week maximum. Like you should notice within 24 hours, you should see a noticeable difference, a noticeable improvement if it's the right thing to be doing. You won't get 100% improvement in 24 hours, but you should absolutely get a noticeable difference. Maurice, we've tried omeprazole, probiotics, Gaviscon, phenyl, Caribal, etc. 5 months, growing so well. Told to wait for him to grow out, but he only sleeps 45 minutes, upright and fidgety too. So yes, there is something going on, Maurice. Absolutely, there's absolutely something going on. There is an underlying cause, I promise you. The doctors, as I've said, do not look holistically at reflux. They do not understand the holistic nature of reflux. They're not trained to look at it like that. They don't study it, and therefore they can't be expected to look at it. So Rebecca, you've been on very high doses of omeprazole for 4 months. Baby has laryngomalacia and severe GERD. His reflux controlled with a strict TED on my side and the omeprazole. Laryngomalacia is not an underlying cause of reflux. It can contribute to reflux. And equally, if you still need omeprazole to control the reflux, then it's indicative that actually the underlying cause is not being addressed. The underlying cause, I promise you, is not too much stomach acid. So yeah, we can actually, when we understand what that underlying cause is, we can truly come back and see what's going on for every child. Harriet, I do private sessions? Yes, absolutely. I will. There's an email to go out tonight or tomorrow morning, or you can go to my website, thebabyrefluxlady.co.uk, and my booking page is on that. Or I can I'll pop it in here. Oh no, https://babyrefluxlady.as.me. There you go. You can. That's my direct booking page if you want to book a session. So Rebecca, so Chloe, how long do you need to give up food group to notice the difference, baby, if it's an allergen? Currently dairy, soy, wheat free, still got symptoms. So Chloe, it's not about a food group. It's about understanding what you're eliminating and why. When we do so, my approach to elimination diets, and I am the only one who takes into account the natural digestive maturity of a child in mum's breastfeeding diet, is when you do it, you get massive improvements in about 2 days. If it's the right thing to do, we get massive improvements in 2 days, and then we rebuild. So you eliminate massively, you get huge change in your little one, and then you rebuild your diet. It's much faster than trying to guess, because very often it is more than one food that is causing an issue. When we understand what foods are causing an issue, then you can well, cross reactivity, or what are the commonalities between foods, and you can do that. And that's all within the breastfeeding masterclass to walk you through that. Pauline, your 6-month-old was on Pepcid for a few months and stopped in November because reflux got a lot better and he was not throwing up at all, maybe once a day. He just started solids 2 weeks ago and noticed his reflux got worse. Why do solids make reflux worse for some babies? I thought that if babies eat thicker foods or thicken the milk, the reflux gets better. No. Pauline, what's happening when we thicken milk and when we thicken foods, it's making it more difficult for the stomach to regurgitate stuff. It's not addressing the underlying cause of why something is coming up from the stomach in the first place. So it could be oral issues, it could be digestive issues, digestive maturity issues, that the stomach just doesn't like what's going in there. It could be aerophagia, there's too much air going in. There's lots of different reasons, so we need to understand on a case-by-case basis. For 54% of babies, when it gets worse, especially if we're looking at the sleep getting much more disrupted at night, this is where the foods they're eating are not suitable for their current level of digestive maturity, and that is completely normal. So we need to change the foods. We are taught to just feed kids anything. The truth is their digestive maturity is not ready for that. In the same way that they don't get up and walk within 4 hours of being born. They have to figure out that they've got limbs. They got to learn how to control their muscles, push up onto their arms, push up on their knees, sit, hold their head up, crawl, bum shuffle, eventually pull themselves to standing and learn to walk. That's a massive, you know, curve of development that they go through. The digestive system has an equally complex digestive maturity curve. The biggest significant sign we have on this is the teeth, because funnily enough, the teeth are the beginning of the digestive system. They're really important to mush food and squash it down. So somewhere between birth and baby having all their milk teeth, that's the point of maturity. In between there, they're not able to digest every food on the earth. So sorry, Rebecca, you started solids cause reflux has made so many issues. You feel like your baby has SIBO due to the PPI. You don't know what to do from here. Rebecca, I don't like jumping to SIBO first, because very often in most babies it's not SIBO. However, the solids course is probably where you'll get support and get help. There's an hour long, 45 to an hour long class, might only be half an hour. There's a class in there specifically on SIBO, which is about how to understand whether it's SIBO, whether it's digestive maturity, how to manage things, how to change things. And with the workshop, which identifies the underlying cause of reflux, you address that. That's when you kind of get your little guy to be reflux free, little guy, girl. So you've got to go, no problem. Yeah, no problem, Zoe. You can watch the replay. So anybody's got to log off. So Laura, pediatrician, told us to incline the cot. Health visitor advised against this. We've slightly inclined the cot, which has helped slightly. Laura, lifting the cot up might help with pain management, which is great. However, it doesn't address the underlying cause of reflux, and that is what I am doing completely. That is all about addressing the underlying cause of reflux first. So Maurice, you feel there's something underlying. You don't have them on prescription medication. You don't think it's normal to hold them upright 20 hours a day. You're absolutely right. It's not normal to need to hold a child upright for 20 hours a day. You'd rather not have meds in them if they're not helping. Do I send full notes of the session as I miss the start? So there'll be a replay, so you can get the replay and watch that. And Lauren, yes, I can absolutely help with fully NG tube fed babies, even PEG babies as well. I've had some great support. I've provided some great support, had some great results with. Again, it's about understanding the mechanics of every individual issue, every individual case, and addressing the reflux, even with the complications that are on. These training courses are run continually. Yes, Samantha, all of the ones I've mentioned today for parents are available on demand immediately whenever you want. So the moment you get them, you enroll, you go in. Sinead, so can I give an example? You address the underlying cause. So for example, if you knew by looking at all the symptoms, etc., that was going on, it's cow's milk protein allergy, then you eliminate cow's milk protein. I will say all cow protein stuff. So we're looking at eliminating beef as well and soy, because they're very complex proteins. If you knew that was it, then when you eliminate them, the reflux is resolved. Okay, so we need to understand exactly what's going on for any child. So I have kept you, ladies and gents, long enough. Thank you very much for your time. So Sinead, reflux most in control after the workshop. Oh, you've done the workshop. Wonderful. Baby had vaccination the Friday night, throwing up a lot. Could that be the cause? Yes, it can. In the workshop, there is a section on using probiotics to support baby around vaccination time and an explanation of what's going on. Depending on which vaccine it is, it could be that there's an allergen in it. For example, some of them I can't remember off the top of my head. There is a blog on the website as well, but some of them have egg in them. So if baby has an egg allergy, you can see something in that that might cause vomiting. It can also damage gut bacteria, which then reduces baby's ability to digest foods properly. And so the immune system goes on a little bit of an overload. So it starts to recognize things that aren't necessarily dangerous as dangerous. So we need to understand exactly what the patterns are. You're more than welcome, ladies. Samantha, how long do you have to access the course? And partner would need to attend different times. It's an e-course, Samantha, so there's no time limit on it. Once you get it for as long as the courses are available. So you have it for at least 3 months, maybe 6 months, 12 months. It's been available for 2 years already. And so you can view the training as many times as you like. You can rewatch it, you can go in and out of it. And I have a lot of people who do it at the beginning and they address it, and something else crops up 2 or 3 months later, so they come back. For example, just like Sinead, who might need to go back and have a look at the vaccination section and the probiotics section. So yeah, you can absolutely watch it as many times as you like. Laura, you're more than welcome. How do you find out what the underlying cause is? It's no, we look at symptoms first. I do not suggest that any mum starts on elimination. Do not start there, because it may not be the right thing to do. It's why I structured specifically the workshop and breastfeeding course, if you want it, with the weaning solids courses. We always start with the workshop first. The workshop is all about understanding the underlying cause first and foremost. So you're more than welcome, Samantha and Harriet. Delighted to have you here. When we understand the underlying cause, then we work out what is the best way to deal with it. In the workshop, there's a 2-day dietary trial to see if it's the right thing to do. And then the breastfeeding masterclass has all the detail about how to do it once you know that it is the right thing to do. So we are coming up for, it's 9:20. I'm going to thank you all very, very, very much for your time here. You're more than welcome. It has been lovely to talk to you. I would be massively grateful for any feedback on this. It's the first time I've shared some of the real big issues that happen when reflux isn't resolved for babies. And I would absolutely love your feedback. So thank you very much for your time. The replay of this will be available very soon. Yes, Faye, see you soon.